Hey guys, it is the Nerdy Movie Guy, and so today we're going to talk about the silly little horror movie Trick or Treat. Now, I didn't know what to expect going into this one, and I was constantly surprised. This movie had one twist after another, and I think this movie sort of rode the edge between inventive and confusing. So here's the thing. If you're watching this movie, you have to pay attention completely to notice the very little details of what connects to what. So in this movie, it starts off on Halloween night, but this movie keeps saying earlier and earlier and earlier, and then it shows later, then later, then later, and it sort of just kind of time skips throughout this movie. So it can become confusing. It was to me, but overall it was an enjoyable watch. There were some very interesting concepts in this movie and some very neat ideas that I think if this were done with a lot more seriousness and maybe less children characters, I think this could have been a really, really, really creepy movie. Nonetheless, here we have it. Basically, this movie shows a few different groups of people, what they do on Halloween night. And there's this story, this sort of urban legend going on around the town of children that died so many years ago because someone was paid off to kill them, basically. And so they become this background darkening theme for the movie and for our core characters. However, we get a bloody kill from one of our two supposedly main characters from the start. And that's when it shows earlier, then earlier, then earlier. So if you like those kinds of movies, this one's definitely one for you, especially if you're a fan of that style and horror films. This one you'll probably think is really, really neat. The one thing about this movie that did bother me a little bit is I felt like there were some plot holes. For example, this kid right here on the front, he sort of shows up in the movie, and there's not really an exact origin for him or who he is. We see a couple of the other core characters, well, I use core characters loosely, sort of see him and kind of nod to him as if they're a part of what he's doing, but then don't show up with him later in the movie with what he's doing later on. And so it just feels like the connectivity was a bit scattered. For maybe movies like this, it does work in a sense if you like that sort of inventive idea for something just wildly different. It was just borderline confusing for me. I still enjoyed it, but it was almost exhausting trying to be focused enough to keep up with everything that's going on. And there's some ridiculous stuff that goes on in this movie. But overall, I enjoyed it. It's definitely not for everyone, but there is some really neat stuff in here that I haven't seen in other horror movies, so it does have its unique identity with what this movie is and what it's trying to be. So that I appreciated. The plot twists are really neat. There are plenty. Like I said, there's several different groups of characters you're slowly learning more about who they are and what they're doing, which ones are evil and which ones aren't. So within each group, there's a plot twist. And within each group, there are some plot holes. And within each group, they come across different villains, so to speak. And so that's why I say it's scattered, is there's so much going on. But overall, it is enjoyable. It's just, it requires your attention. That's how I would sum up this movie, is it requires your full attention. Overall, I don't know if they're going to make another one. I know they did make another one, but I don't know if this one will ever get a direct connected sequel. So we'll see what happens. This one was pretty interesting. So if they did make a sequel, it'd be neat to see maybe a prequel to this, show some origins. There are definitely some origins I think that are worth telling the story within this franchise. So overall, let me know what you think in the comments if you've seen this movie. Let me know if maybe it wasn't as confusing, or maybe let me know if there were some things that you're supposed to understand that I just didn't. So overall, thanks for keeping up. Keep it digging, everyone.